There are all kinds of sort of fun applications of drones and then serious applications of drones. So I think there's really a wide range of how they're used.
The community is always very welcoming and very open, and they want to see more pilots and new people.
For the classroom, I like the complexity of drones because there's mechanical systems and there's good physics involved and there are electronics, and so it's a really good problem that students can solve, and it's more complex than probably beginning engineering projects.
Not only is it fun and sort of a fun and healthy hobby, but to be involved you have to be learning about all these STEM education topics.
The goals of the Drone Light Show is to be the future of art and entertainment in the sky, to be an eco-friendly solution, and to help add some diversity.
Drones are just the latest introduction of another innovation. It's going to change the way we live here. I think it's very exciting for young people growing up in the world, and I'm very curious to see what new innovations are going to come up.
The community is always very welcoming and very open, and they want to see more pilots and new people. Not only is it fun and sort of a fun and healthy hobby, but to be involved you have to be learning about all these STEM education topics. Tonight we are meeting at the Hiller Aviation Museum, and we're actually racing micro drones through the gallery of the museum. And so we actually fly them through the exhibits and around the airplanes. FPV drone racing is a hobby in which pilots are flying small, powerful drones around. The drones have video cameras on them and little transmitters, and so they're wirelessly transmitting video back to goggles that the pilots are wearing. So for the pilots, the experience is being inside the aircraft, like you're in the cockpit of this airplane. And so instantly when you put the goggles down, you feel like you're flying. And that experience is so addictive and so transformative for people that once they start doing it, it's all they want to do.
I'm working kind of part-time, racing part-time. The racing's more of a passion. It's not really a job, but it feels like a job because I practice 40 hours a week. So I'm on a racing team, Velocidrone Racing, and Velocidrone's a simulator. And I'm also sponsored by a bunch of companies that help me keep my fleet up and running, because I wouldn't be able to afford it if I didn't have sponsors. Drone racing is like everything about me. Every day I think about it. Every day I'm trying to get better at it. I mean, the most addicting thing is just the rush you get and the freedom, racing head to head against someone, the same speed as you. It's all, there's so much pressure and adrenaline. It's just like an insane rush.
We started before we were drone racing actually as drone combat guys. We started buying the cheap toy drones that were available 5 or 6 years ago at the mall. So this was in 2012, 2013 and 14. And right around then, drone racing came on board. The goggles and the cameras started getting integrated. And at that point, globally, that notion of drone racing that notion became viral, and it really took off all over the world.
When I'm not out flying in real life, I'm on the simulator. I host races online. We have a racing league online that I run. So I'm racing online pretty much every night. My Instagram's filled with drone stuff. My Facebook feed's filled with drone stuff.
But drone racing, just on its own, really offers a lot of community. No matter where you go, if you are looking for a drone race or you're looking for information to get into it, the community is always very welcoming and very open, and they want to see more pilots and new people, especially as those new people tend to be kids and younger pilots, because when we started it was mostly adults. Engineering and flight dynamics and learning how to use hardware, and so all of that, all those skill sets being brought to bear make this much more than just a game or much more than just a hobby, but actually something that really can help kids get a early kind of zest for these technologies and a head start on career opportunities and the knowledge base that goes around that. If you're willing to spend a lot of time and energy to take something like this seriously, you're doing such a benefit to your spatial reasoning and your critical thinking, and again, your understanding of some software applications and math and engineering. All those skills nowadays are more critical than some of the more traditional skills when it comes to readiness for jobs and employment in the future. Spending a lot of time in the world of drone racing or any other kind of tech field like that is only going to do benefit as you move forward and start looking for jobs in the future.
I think it's a project that a student who knows very little could get into. There's a big learning curve throughout that process, but there's a lot of information out there. There are a lot of helpful, YouTube videos, and there are tons of drone forums that have a lot of information. My name is Lyda Conaway, and I teach engineering at Mountain View High School. And I have a class of Engineering 2 students who are working on a project right now that involves building, designing, and troubleshooting their own drones. So the students have to source their materials. So I have some components here. They have to figure out what kind of flight controller they want to use. And so the electronics can be easy or can be complicated depending on the drone.
Well, the first step is the research, because the teacher doesn't hold our hand and walk us through the process. There's no instruction booklet. We ourselves have to get on computers and research, what do drones normally look like, and how have other people done it. And then we see what they did and we change it a little, make it our own, make it how we want it to be. Then we make it on a computer. Then we either 3D print it or laser cut it. Then comes the electronic part, and that's the hardest part, soldering all the circuits. It's super hard work.
The chances of it working the first time is not the highest. The first people who just flew their drone, the first time. What?
Some challenges in flying our drone is getting our drone to fly. Lots of people don't realize that you have to set each individual motor. You have to set the power that it spins at. You have to set them to spin at the same time. Everything is a lot of manual work that you don't even think about. I definitely learned the value of trial and error. In the real world, pretty much nothing's gonna work the first time, so you have to keep attacking it and improving and seeing what went wrong and what you can do next time. A lot of good skills for programming and soldering and building and doing research, and I think a lot of this will help me in later projects.
I think anytime you have something physical, it's really fun. So having something that lifts itself off of the ground is exciting when it works.
It started to get really fun once all the pieces started to fit together, and especially when we started cutting, it became a physical thing that manifested, and that was very satisfying.
Students get really excited when they're successful, and they get really frustrated when they're not having success. And so when you finally come together and you finish the project and it works, they're jumping up and down and they're running around and they're screaming, they're taking videos, they're adding GoPro cameras, and so they're really proud of what they've done, and they should be, because it's not an easy problem.
Definitely dealing with things like mistakes and having to not exactly start over, but having to redo steps, learn it better. Compared to when I started in Engineering 1, I've been able to kind of take criticism a lot better for the most part. That's probably something I'll take away from this class. It was definitely a lot of fun to do this, and I'm about to go to a university level course for engineering, not super soon, but once I start kind of putting that into practice, I feel I'll have more resources and abilities to really add more to it.
Overall, I think this is a great experience. You always look at drones, but you don't actually know the hard work that goes into making them, and being able to actually hands-on deal with it, you get a whole new understanding, and I'm really glad that we did this project.
So the goal of this class is to expose people to all of the possible careers in tech, both engineering. So right now, most of the people who design the boards that you have in all of your electronics components are in their 50s and 60s, and there aren't very many people younger than them in that career. And so there's actually going to be a huge need for electrical engineers over the next 20 years.
What Intel tries to do with the drone show is to demonstrate the many different types of technologies capable of developing and delivering to the marketplace, including the technology that makes it possible for drones to fly with different color and fly in formation and communicate through radio frequency to one pilot on a ground station.
We use drones to create the future of art and entertainment in the sky, and mainly a very eco-friendly alternative to fireworks. What's cool about drone light shows is that we have one controller, one pilot, and they control how many drones that we need, so all the way from maybe as small as 100 drones to 1,000 to 2,000 drones.
If you watch the opening ceremony of the Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games, it was impressive. Intel demonstrated its drone technology with 1,500 drones flying in formation. For the Tokyo Games, Intel's ambition is to set a new world record with a much larger number of drones that will be flying over Tokyo, and preparations are already underway for that.
My job is creating the 3D shapes that the drones actually form in the sky. So the planning process is a lot like graphic design. You create a storyboard and you follow through by creating a simulation. Drones like that you can buy commercially or just like you and me can buy are made for multiple different purposes, for surveying, have a camera on it. These are specifically built for drone light shows.
I think drones are a safe way for kids to learn about technology in a fun way, and I think one of the ways we try to encourage kids to pursue science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education is to look at fun applications that really capture their attention.
So in general, I liked how the 3D aspect interacted with this hard piece of software, and it's, from an artistic standpoint, it's like messing with a different media. It's just a lot different than paint or drawing. It's drones in the sky.
There's a concrete linkage between what you see happens with a drone and what is written into a software program, and I think that tangible connection really makes it an exciting teaching tool. I'd say the thing that's most rewarding about teaching kids about drones is you see the excitement factor and their eyes light up, especially if they can see a drone show in person, if not in person, when they see it on YouTube. And the fact that they can work on some aspect of the drone, usually the software programming, and make the drone fly, that really makes them really excited. The country in the United States is actually has a crisis in terms of a shortage of labor. In order to continue with the innovation that companies like Amazon or Apple or Facebook bring, we need more engineers. I absolutely think that drones will become a bigger part of society. I know that I went and visited DJI in Shenzhen. They're the largest manufacturer of drones in the world. I asked them, hey, who buys most of these drones? And the question, the answer I assumed would come back would be companies for commercial purposes. And the number one market for DJI is in the United States, and it's for consumer use. What that's telling me here is that there's really a lot of interest in the general population. I don't think that's going to wane. And now companies are starting to look at how to use drones for commercial purposes. I think you're going to see a lot more drones throughout the airwaves very shortly.